Good afternoon and a warm welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Grihatul Siddiqui. Over the next half an hour, I'll be bringing you all the top stories that dominate the headlines. And we begin with some breaking news that we're getting on the broadcast. And this one is a CNN News 18 exclusive news break. Now remember, India is concerned about the safety of the Air India and its staff in the United Kingdom and in Canada, because India has raised concerns after the SFJ chief and Khalistan supporter Gurpatwan Singh Punnun has issued a threat yesterday on Air India flights. Now, as per top intelligence sources, they have revealed that the government is mulling about what is to be done next. They are deeply concerned about the threat that has been issued by Punnun yesterday. Also, how the SFJ's chief Punnun is openly threatening one nation sitting in Canada, and no action is being taken despite multiple requests that have been sent out to the Canadian authorities. The other aspect that we're also looking at is as to how Punnun has already attacked Indian High. In fact, Khalistan separatists have already attacked the Indian High Commission in the United Kingdom and also in Canada. And India has also raised security bars on Air India. Remember, this is after there was a threat call that was issued by Gurpatwan Singh Punnun, the SFJ chief, the Khalistan supporter who works and functions out of Canada. The India-Canada diplomatic ties have taken a massive hit after Canada had raised allegations against Indian involvement in the killing of another Khalistan separatist, Mr. Nijjar. Now, this has escalated things out of proportion, and what has happened is that Gurpatwan Singh Punnun has now issued a threat on an Air India flight that might just get out of Canada on the 19th of November, when there is the World Cup final match. And he has said that nobody should be taking that flight to India, and there is an open threat that has been raised against it. Now, as per top intel sources, we are given to understand through sources in Ministry of External Affairs that the government is saying that they have done a briefing as per security guidelines, and they will be in touch with the concerned authorities in their respective countries, and also the fact that they're fearful that Punnun can radicalize people, and same can translate to hostage crisis or physical damage to Air India. This is a huge threat that the government of India is looking at. For more details on this, let me take this across to my colleague Abhishek Jha, who's joining us on the broadcast. Abhishek, ever since Punnun issued that threat advisory, now the government of India on high alert. Details, please.
Well, there are two aspects of this entire threat that Punnun has said against Indian airlines, Air India especially. First is, of course, the Indian security preparedness, which the government officials are doing. They are briefing people concerned with the airlines, and security protocols are being reviewed in the wake of these threats. The other aspect is what kind of threat analysis Canadian government or the US government will do in order to ensure that the person who is operating from their soil will not be able to do any harm to the Indian passengers or any Indian airlines flying in the airspace of these two countries. We have all have a nightmarish memory of what has transpired on the Kanishka plane back in 1985 because of the Khalistani terrorists. And this threat that has come again from one of the Khalistani outfit should not be taken lightly. At the same time, these governments which are letting these kind of hate and propagandists operate on their soil in the name of freedom of speech and expression, they have a bigger onus onto them to deal with these persons and to arrest them and to treat them with the law of the land.
Right. Abhishek, is there any possibility that Indian authorities are going to be in touch with the Canadian counterparts, considering there is a lot of water that has flowed under the bridge? Is that even an option? And if so, have we heard from Canada after this threat was issued?
Well, one can only say that the two countries, especially on the issue of Khalistan terrorism and their sympathizers, US, Canada, these countries have kind of developed thick skin in terms of Indian threat and Indian, demands that Indian government have been making time and again, because we have seen in the past also India has pleaded, India has urged them that these people are involved in a way and operate in a way that clearly amounts to a threat to the national security, secession of India, annexation of Indian state of Punjab, and this cannot be in no way taken as a social activism. in Canada. So there has to be some law that would deal with them. Imagine if somebody sitting in India would threaten people in Canada not to fly on their plane, or for that matter, people, passengers flying in USA, don't fly after a certain date in the airspace. So what would be the reaction of these countries? They would certainly be threatened, and they would ask Indian government to take action against those persons. And India would duly take action. And this is not happening entirely in the case of Indian concerns, which is being done in USA and Canada. This Punnun has been involved in SFJ activities. The organization was banned in 2019. More than 3 dozen cases are pending against this organization, and several of them are with a very serious criminal charges. And still this person is allowed to operate. And not only operate, he has been involved in defending so many other Khalistani terrorists also in the courts of Canada.
Yes.
And that tells kind of, higher level of clout this person has in Canada and in USA.
Right. Abhishek, you were mentioning about the 1985 Kanishka bombing and how, Canada is yet to give any lucrative responses about that, considering this too emanated out of its soil and Indians had to suffer. Now, another open call for action has been given by a Khalistan separatist, and the person is actually speaking from a place on Canadian soil, and yet nothing really has been done about it so far. It's for the Indian authorities to raise an alarm, but no action, no response from Canada. How does one look at this situation when it comes to the diplomatic ties further spiraling out of control for India and Canada?
Well, it's a plain, simple and blatant hypocrisy of the West, which considers even the smallest threat at a very, concerned level. But when it comes to the Indian government, which has escalated the issue both in Delhi, in Ottawa and at United Nations also, that such persons, such people who have had a very clear identity with terrorist organization, and they are propagating and they are proceeding with these identities, and the person should be acted upon with the law of the land. There has not been much action that the Canadian side has shown. In fact, even though India asked a parity in rank and strength with the Canadian diplomats, that was in a way meant to convey in the strongest possible terms how does India sees Canadian side's approach towards India's concerns of national security and threat emanating from the land. However, even after the departure of 41 diplomats from the Canadian side, it doesn't look like Canadian government has taken some very strong action against these organizations and to stop them from propagating anti-India sentiments in that country. And this is the reason why people like Punnun are allowed to operate on social media and clearly give a threat not only to the Indian people but to the Indian government also, and to an Indian company, that anybody who is traveling in Air India flights after 19th November will have a danger to their life. He has also threatened people like Amitabh Bachchan, he's a celebrated person, and other people of prominence, that these people's lives can be in danger. Such an open threat needs to be dealt with law. Such an open threat needs to, the government, the local government needs to take action, and this is not happening in this case entirely.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Abhishek. Keeping an eye on this story.